Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of eDiscovery After Hours. My guest this week is Matt Mahon from Trustpoint. Matt's an executive director who joined a few months ago. In this episode, we talked about a lot of things, including he's a self-described craft beer and wine snob. And we talk about how those things intersect with Peloton. We talked about the San Francisco 49ers, what it's like to have 4 children. He has, I'm about to have my 4th. And we talked about applied mathematics, which was what he studied in undergrad. And we close out, of course, a conversation with Matt wouldn't be complete without talking about emojis. So we covered a lot of ground, including some things I didn't touch on here. But it's a great conversation. I know you're going to love it. The sponsor this week is Discovery Master. If you are managing review projects, whether you've got a massive workspace and you're just trying to track a subset, if you've got an MSP with a corporate client and they're asking you about reporting, if you have a managed review team who's performing reviews and these workspaces are hosted in multiple places across on-prem environments in Rel 1, got to check out www.discoverymaster.co. Check out how they automate project metrics, QC stats, federate abilities, and just give you the ability to see everything in one place. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy.
Quick time!
You don't know how to drink, your whole generation.
Drinks on the house.
Yes, sir.
No, wait a second. Drinks are 50% off.
Right.
No, wait a second. Double the price of everything.
And I work only 16 hours a day.
A union man only works 8 hours a day.
I belong to 2 unions.
And now, eDiscovery After Hours with your host, Ryan Short.
All right, Matt. Cheers. Welcome to eDiscovery After Hours, man. How are you?
Cheers. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
All right. I see I'm prepared. I didn't know if you were going to be from a can or a glass. So I've got it. I'm ready. I'm hooking it up. What are we drinking today?
I've got a beer from the Inclusion Beer Project, which is actually a pretty cool thing. They've got the small breweries that have DE&I efforts going on. Have to be committed to that. And then they do collaboration beers, and they're able to use this label. There's different labels that they can leverage.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit of a craft beer snob, so I do have my beer glass. And actually, this is a craft beer riders from the Peloton glass that we all use when we enjoy our beverages.
Okay, wait a second. That is a craft beer Peloton glass?
Yeah, so we have a group. So within the Peloton community, there's also sub-communities based on like interests. And so there's a craft beer riders group. And we ride together, we share beers, we talk about workouts, talk about great beer, if someone's traveling, what are the best breweries to go to, and just a great community of individuals.
How did you find a group of craft beer lovers on Peloton? Is that like, did you find the beer lovers first and then you all got Pelotons, or did it work the other way?
Well, we had Pelotons, and someone, they create these groups, and then there's also hashtags that you can ride with. And so when you have a Peloton, when you're riding, you see somebody, they display whatever hashtag they want. You have 10 and one's on your display. So I think I saw the display and then somehow just got lucky. It was during the pandemic. Obviously, I had a little more time on my hands to go through social media and search things, and found the group and requested to be added and hoped, man, this is really real. This is a real thing. And sure enough, and it was just a lot. Most groups, I'm never a part of a group where I get into it and it's just a bunch of garbage, but literally all positive vibes, positive people talking about their workouts, different things they do on the Peloton, and different beers from across the country. So it's just great information. And like I said, great individuals, and made some friends on there. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So I got to be real careful, or I could turn this into a Peloton infomercial. So,
absolutely.
So we'll pivot quickly. They're struggling, so they could use a free infomercial or two.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. But, so are you a cyclist outside of like the 4 walls of your home as well? Or is like this like 21st century exercise bike the extent of your cycling prowess?
Yeah, I ended up getting a bike to ride with the kids after the Peloton, actually. I ran cross country and track in high school. So I always liked to do cardio. And then after a couple small stints in the hospital, after being perfectly healthy, my wife's like, I know you want a Peloton. that's it. You're getting healthy again. You're going to lose some weight. Let's go get the Peloton. I'm like, sure. I'm not going to fight you on that. Yeah. And we both use it, and we have the tread now too. So yeah, as you said, this could go into a full infomercial, but then that got me into getting an actual bike to bike outdoors as well, as I got more proficient on the bike.
There you go. So I biked all the time. I lived in Chicago for 6 years, didn't have a car. And I got a bike shortly after I moved up there, and I would do, 30, 40, 50 mile rides along the lake. Nice. And then we moved to Indianapolis, where there is not a biking culture and there's not biking infrastructure. And my road bike has done a great job of collecting dust in the garage. And the only time it gets used is when there's a kid trailer hooked to the back of it and we're tooling around the neighborhood, and now the girls are getting older. So now I've got the 2-year-old in the bike trailer, and then I've got an Elsa bike to one side of me and then a Minnie Mouse bike to the other. I mean, it is an impressive parade when the Short family goes through Steinmeier. Yeah, it's good.
Hey, well, you started this podcast. You can start a biking community there too.
Yeah, I don't know if the legs will extend that far, but we'll see. So you said another phrase I want to circle back to: craft beer snob. I've heard the phrase wine snob, which I believe when we were trading emails the other day, you also called yourself a wine snob. So you pick a thread. Which one do you want to pull first? But craft beer or wine snobbery? I'm interested in these as a podcast dedicated to mixing business with pleasure. This is right on point, right on brand. Well done.
I guess I'll start with the wine, because that's where it all started with me. So I grew up in Healdsburg, California, which is in Sonoma County. Definitely a big wine touristy town. And I got lucky to get a wine education, because after college, I spent 1 year, I took a year off. I worked at this local grocery store, and one of my friends was a wine buyer, and he was young as well. And what he would do is actually very intelligent. He took about a group of 4 or 5 of us, and we all had different palates. And so when different wineries would want to bring the wine into the store, he'd say, okay, get a bottle to try. We'd have to sit around the table, and he'd pour a little bit. And just a small taste, and then he'd take his notes. And so once he was done trying the wines and took the notes, then you could go enjoy a glass or 2 or 3 of your favorite wine that he poured. But he got to find out that, okay, he had, the Matt group of a palate, or the Ryan group. So when he had a client come, or someone say, hey, I'm having this dinner, I want to try something new. What do you recommend? He's like, well, what wines do you like? What are a couple of wines you like? And then he's like, oh, you'd like what Matt likes. So then he would pull from his head the wines that I liked, and it worked 99% of the time. It was actually a very impressive and intelligent way of doing it. For someone to being young and not having that wine experience, he gained it 5-fold by having these types of events that we put together. So I got a wine education there. So obviously I like good wine. I'm not the biggest spirits drinker, so more of a wine and beer guy. And then being up there, I didn't realize all the great breweries in Northern California. So there is an East Coast versus West Coast, hazy versus clear IPA sort of thing going on.
This is a Midwest brewed West Coast IPA.
There you go.
Courtesy of Daredevil Brewing in God's country, Indianapolis.
Beautiful. So West Coast is usually more clear. I like them both though. As this one's a little more, even though it's a West Coast, a little more hazy, but still clearish. I like the clear beer a little bit better, but I still like the hazies too. I have love for both coasts for sure. But in Sonoma County, you got Russian River Brewing Company with Pliny the Elder, one of the most famous, I guess, IPAs out there. Yeah. They've got Hen House, which is a great brewery. Altamont's making great beers, and probably one of my favorites right now is the Maui Double IPA, and that's out of Livermore, which is in the East Bay. Humble Sea down in Santa Cruz makes some great beer. So, and now I'm getting into, now that I moved to Florida, Jacksonville, learning some of the breweries here. My favorite so far is Southern Swell. They have an IPA called Karate in the Garage. But getting to know I'll bring it back to the Peloton group real quick. Seeing all the beers, when I go to a beer shop or whatever, I know what brands and what beers to pick up because I see what they post and what they talk about. So then I'll go try, and I have different breweries on my mind of, hey, if I see something from there, I'm going to grab it. So I figure at this age, I'm not in college anymore. If I'm going to have a beverage, I'm going to drink something I like. So
yeah, the challenge I've had with craft beer is that if you're not paying attention, right, this isn't like Mick Ultra, 80 calories or whatever in the world that watered down stuff, the water is. All of a sudden, you had knock back 2 or 3 IPAs with a buddy, and you're like, oh, that was 900 calories. And my waistline,
2,000 calories.
Yeah.
You gotta
my waistline showed it, man. After the first 6 months of COVID, I always tell people COVID-19 stood for how many pounds I gained from sitting on the front porch outside with buddies. We'd all BYOB and sit out on a porch. And I had to break the bike out and do some laps around the neighborhood, towing some kids, to work it off.
That's where the beer and the Peloton come together. You can try and maintain or get a little bit ahead of it. But yeah, that saved me from putting on some of the pounds. That's for sure. But you're exactly right. These things are packed with calories, and they're not made for really chugging or having multiple.
No,
because the calories and alcohol content can catch up to you pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So you took a year off after school. I think, if memory serves, were you a math major in undergrad?
Yeah, I was a math applied sciences major at UC San Diego. Also during my senior year, got my Series 6 and 63 licenses to sell mutual funds, life insurance license as well.
I'm just thinking about boiler room right now. Do we?
Oh, and it wasn't what I expected. So using I love financial mathematics, and going through that, I was going to try and find out what their risk assessment was and apply that. And I had all these different equations, and they looked at me like, no, you're selling these mutual funds. I'm like, wait. But shouldn't I be understanding the clients and understanding what their needs are, risk factors, et cetera? They're like, no, you just sell this. And right then and there, I kind of knew that wasn't going to be for me. So I was doing that and that training while taking 20 units my last quarter, because I messed up a little early on in my college career to get out in 4 years. I was working at Home Depot. I was doing tutoring. I had one more job. I had 4 jobs plus school going on at the same time.
Oh my!
And that led to the kind of a burnout by the time I graduated. So, I worked in the game room. I was assistant manager of the game room, which wasn't the most difficult job. People shooting pool, ping pong, et cetera. And you ended up kind of being the DJ in there. So that was actually good because I could do some homework at the time. But all those different schedules were hard to balance, and that was it. I needed a year to just refresh and regroup.
Yeah. So I would think a guy in applied mathematics, to me, that says like, I'm going to grad school for physics, or I want to go get an MBA and work in finance or work in a hedge fund. I mean, you could go a lot of different ways with that. And you ended up in e-discovery somehow. Mm-hmm. So usually I come to the career later, and we'll circle back to it at the end. But how in the world did you get from taking a year off in Northern California and learning about wine and having an applied math background, and then being in e-discovery? What's the Reader's Digest version of that?
Yeah. So actually it was coming back after the year. I said I was taking a year off. So literally at the 1 year mark, I moved back to San Diego, looking for a job. Couldn't find one at the time because they didn't want math majors. A lot of these interview people wanted business majors. And I was like, well, then why'd you bring me in? It's clearly on my application and my resume, but that's a story for another day. And I found Icon Legal Document Services, and it was obviously more paper involved at the time as a customer service representative. And I said I wanted an opportunity to move up in the organization and learn the business. I thought about going to law school. I winged the LSAT on a rainy day in Northern California, did well on the logic games, and bombed everything else. So I had a little bit of interest in legal, though, law and order, forensic files, all that kind of stuff. And then when I started seeing scanning and the load files, and people were scared to talk to litigation support managers about building load files for concordance and things, I'm like, well, what is this? And so I started scanning some documents myself with barcodes and seeing what the export was and what everything looked like. And it reminded me of linear algebra, and it made sense to me. And I enjoyed it, learned what coding was and all that. And I was like, you know what? This is actually interesting. Then it turned into e-discovery. And the metadata and everything that goes along with it. And now we're into AI and technology to review and all the metrics that come with that, and validation, and that's statistics. So really my math background plus my interest in legal and business all came together, and I actually found, I think, the perfect industry for me. But it was just plain luck. I'll tell you that right now. Just dumb luck.
I joked, I had breakfast this morning with, there's a local entrepreneur and investor who owns a product development company. He does, he develops software for, Fortune 1000 companies. And he's the guy, I got to know him. We did a consulting project for one of his businesses during my MBA. And through that, we went out and had bourbon and got to know each other. And he introduced me to these 4 litigators who had a software product, and they wanted to take it from a product to a business. And I was looking for something new. And so he put us together. I had breakfast with him this morning. And to your point about it was just blind luck, I joked with him. I was like, I don't know who's more mad at you, these guys, because now they have to work with me every day, or me, because I'm in e-discovery, right? But, it's a great little space. And I say little because, globally, this is such a niche within a niche.
When we're in the space, we know, and it seems kind of big, but actually when you talk to other people and they ask you what you do, they kind of look at you like, huh? And they don't understand the industry. My wife has a hard time explaining to people what I do. And you're right. It actually is, from a global perspective, not that big, but I think with information governance, cybersecurity, privacy, and all those things converging, you'll see and hear more about it, because
it touches so many things. And, obviously the M&A that's gone on in the space is just indicative of the fact that, as discovery became e-discovery, then by virtue of everyone and everything that has access to those networks, it's just, I think, I was going to say, I think you're going to see it become more of a part of like the business consciousness, not household name, so to speak. And then as I thought about that, TransPerfect sponsored a bowl game this year.
Actually, that's a great point. I saw that and I was like, oh, wow, like that's different.
Yeah. Tennessee, Purdue, and I'm a Hoosier, but I'm a Big Ten guy. So I'm rooting for the Boilermakers, and I see TransPerfect. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Right. We had a couple of conversations with them about this new software we're developing. And then they, cut to commercial break and they're like, e-discovery, this and that. And I was like, like 2 years ago, I would have been like, what is e-discovery? Right.
Yeah, I'm wondering what half the audience, or maybe 90% of the audience, thought about that, or even looked it up. But I thought that was interesting and good for our space. Yeah. And you're right. I think as there's more M&A and companies become larger, there's not as many geographical, more, I hate to say the term mom and pop, but mom and pop organizations has become larger companies. People may get to know brands and what we actually do.
Yep. I think that's exactly right. So, all right, you're from Northern California, and we were talking off camera. You're a 49ers guy. You got a little playoff beard going,
yes,
and now you're in Jacksonville. And so I just need to vent for a minute, because I've had half of an IPA, and it's the end of the workday, and those SOBs down in Jacksonville. The Indianapolis Colts have not won in Jacksonville in like 8 or 9 years. And so, I would like for you to apologize on behalf of the city of Jacksonville for making the entire state of Indiana furious.
I do apologize. And I'd actually even blame my cousin. So he's a diehard Jags fan, lives here, born, raised here. And him and his buddies said, we are so tired of the mediocrity and the bad play, and we can't even watch another game. So they decided, one of them had season tickets. They decided to boycott and not show up in their clown outfits. They decided to boycott and go golfing. And so I said, because you didn't watch the game and your buddies didn't go to the game, you had to golf instead, that led to the Jags victory. So we can give them all the blame.
I mean, the curse is real. I don't know what it is. Like, if Peyton's mad, that we traded him to Denver, and so like we've just been doomed to mediocrity at best since then, or what it is. But there's some kind of a mental block when we enter.
It's been a crazy season, though. It didn't. I mean, I'm sorry for your Colts, but it's been a crazy season all the way around. So it didn't surprise me that much, knowing all the chaos that happened, and of course, the Lions won too. So both the Jags and the Lions won.
Crazy. What's your opinion on Garoppolo? Is he the guy for the foreseeable future? Are you a believer or are you a hater?
Man, I had to apologize to him after the first half of the Week 18 Rams game, because, man, I was not a believer, and especially with the injury. Obviously, the record stands for itself, so it's one of those things where he wins football games. He knows the offense well. I think there's great weapons around him. Can he himself carry a team if he didn't have Shanahan and the weapons around him? I don't know. He's an above average good quarterback. But I think that Trey Lance just is a whole different dimension. So, but experience matters. I mean, you look at what he's able to do even with his injuries. But he always kind of makes one bonehead play a game, it seems like, just like a rookie may. So I love him because he's a 49er. He took us to a Super Bowl, although it broke my heart at the end of that one. overthrowing Emmanuel Sanders by 2 yards. But it's tough because I'm definitely a Trey Lance believer as well. And I think that was a great pick and traded picks for a reason to get Trey Lance. But I'm rooting for Jimmy G as long as he's in a Niner uniform. And if they retain him next year and let Trey Lance develop slowly behind him because of the whole COVID and the pandemic and the lack of college experience, I'm all for it. And I'll root for him till, the day he's not a Niner. So
there you go. I love it. You're a company man, and I dig that about you.
Hey, that's right.
Matt, did I see your email correct? Do you have 4 kids?
4 kids.
So in 3 weeks from the time we're recording, I actually don't know when this episode's airing. I could look over at this screen and it'll probably tell me. By the time this airs, I'm either a week out or I've had my 4th kid.
Congrats.
What am I in for?
Now you're double teamed every time. So the zone defense goes out the window because now you're double teamed actually. But honestly, the 4th one isn't that much more difficult than the 3rd because you already can't go man-to-man defense anymore. So you'll be fine.
So you use the exact same analogy that I use, right? Because I remember when we were living in Chicago, we're in this cute little apartment and we have our first kid and, you're walking to the Trader Joe's and you're like, oh, look at us. We're these young millennials playing city, like playing adult, right? And, you go out on a Friday, and have 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 IPAs and you wake up the next morning, you're like, gosh, I don't feel good, and you're newlyweds. And so your wife is like, don't worry, honey. Like I got the kid. And I remember the first time we had our second daughter and I had a drink or 2 too many. The next morning, she's like, get up, right? Like the sympathy's over because it's man to man. Yeah. And so I said, when you go from, 1 to 2, you double your work and it's terrifying. Right.
That was a big jump for us too. Correct.
Yeah. The first kid, it's like, this is adorable. This is such a great life change. It's so cute to cuddle. The second one, you're like, we've doubled our work. What has happened? And then my opinion is like, once you get to 3, 4, and it's just like, whatever, it's just another one. Your grocery budget will incrementally rise and the rest of your life will stay the same. Now that's my operating theory. And it sounds like you're validating that. So, and I have you on record now.
Yeah, I'll validate that. The only thing I'm learning that gets a little chaotic is as they get a little bit older, because now our youngest just turned 5. And so she's doing soccer and all the kids are in a sport and extracurricular activities. You start driving them all around.
Yeah.
We need like have Uber for children to get them to their activities. So that's called one grandma. Challenge. Yeah. So if you're on your own, or if you're out of town, for example, and your wife has somewhere, she's out of town and you've got to get 4 kids into 4 different places.
Yeah.
Then I wish you the best of luck, but hopefully you build a community with friends, teammates, they'll come help pick up your kid or take them home. So that's why whenever anyone asks for a ride and we're able to do it, we always do, because we always know that we're going to have the same need in the future.
Bingo.
And need someone to pick up our kid and bring them home.
Yeah. You pay it forward. What's the age range of your 4?
So 5 to 14.
Okay.
So I got pre-K to 8th grade.
There you go. All right. I don't even want to talk about the teenage years, so let's just avoid that altogether.
Yeah. The 2 oldest are boys. The 2 youngest are girls. So it's starting to get a little bit crazy because 14 and almost 11. And
What prompted the move to Florida? Is that recent or have you been there for a while?
Been here since closed in August. So talking 5 months, about 5.5 months. Well, the pandemic caused part of it, as California didn't have the largest house or the largest yard. Pandemic, have 3 kids distance learning and a preschooler running around the living room. I'm in the garage working, and I had an Under Armour base layer on, trying to stay warm during the winter time. My selfie light, I looked like, I don't know, it was crazy. It was chaos, and figured, hey, if this is going to happen again, or if it sustains, or we just need more space. I mean, the kids kept getting bigger and the house just seemed to get smaller and smaller. And so we had an opportunity. My wife has family out here, and just figured, you know what, let's do this. So now I have my own office space. The kids have their own room. So hopefully we don't get locked down, anything crazy happens again, but should it, everyone's got their own space here, and, much bigger house for a lot less. So I can't complain about that.
Yeah. My brother-in-law is in e-discovery as well. And he's in the suburbs of Chicago, and we're technically in the Indianapolis city limits. And it's funny, like we bought houses at about the same time, and we have more bedrooms, more bathroom, bigger yard, like 60% of the cost. And I'm like, oh, that's why we moved to Indiana.
Yes.
It doesn't sound sexy, but man, you can afford to live.
And that makes a difference, especially now you got the fourth on the way. That makes a difference. They want to go to school. They want to do activities, start traveling with them. That becomes expensive once you got to buy them all plane tickets. Hotels that's another issue though. Hotels become a little bit more challenging, whether you have to get 2 rooms or if you can find one with the suites. But that would be probably some of the biggest challenges we've had. Bigger cars, obviously necessary. And then the hotels get a little bit odd. You don't have as much of an option.
Right. So my wife's the oldest of 4. I'm the oldest of 5. So to us, it's par for the course. Most people think we're nuts.
Used to it.
Yeah. But it's just like, that's just what it is. I don't think when we were growing up, I slept in a rollaway cot in every hotel room, like from the time I was 6 until I went to college. Like it was, it's just, we'd put give
me the bathtub. I'll sleep on the floor, wherever.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, man. I want to pivot to close the thing out here. So you relatively recently started a new gig. You're at Trustpoint now. So would love to have you tell the folks, and you're the emoji guy, by the way. Like when I hear literally, I'm not joking. When I hear the word emoji, I think about you now. So whatever you're doing to brand yourself is working. So talk a little bit about what you're doing at Trustpoint and spit some emoji knowledge for us.
Yeah. So great opportunity at Trustpoint to be the executive director and just more specific in the legal space. So not only is there e-discovery services branching out into some information governance, attorney staffing from secondments to managed review, court reporting, really a wider swath of the legal industry and be a better business partner in that space. And just work for an organization that's looking to grow and want some more talent and just seem to be a great fit, great people. And I'm very excited to be there. Also some good technology associated with emoji and short messaging within Relativity. They have the short messaging platform, got a proprietary add-on to that. So that seemed to be a good fit based on that emoji expertise. And that came out of kind of nowhere too. I mean, that was an add-on to a CLE from an IoT, an information explosion IoT. And it was a 10-minute at the end. Hey, we're gonna talk about emoji as well. That became a favorite part. There wasn't that much information 4 to 5 years ago about emoji or case law. And then became half. So it's half IoT, half emoji. And then it just became all emoji as there's more and more information and technology evolved. So just something that I thought was going to be an issue as I saw it continue to grow in the workplace and usage. It was going to be discoverable. Attorneys need to understand to look at emoji differently and not ignore it, because I could see them looking at the text, just running their keywords, and they're off and running and not understanding what an emoji was or improperly ignore it. And so that was the reason for the education to get out there to say, hey, look, these are being used differently. They continue to evolve as a language, just like words change though. And I remember growing up using the word sick, like, oh, that's sick, instead of cool. And so obviously sick and sick have 2 different meanings. So emoji, same thing. It's nothing new on how people communicate. But if you're not aware, then you could miss something big. You could miss a smoking gun evidence, and you could potentially receive sanctions if you don't produce what you're supposed to. So just letting attorneys know, hey, make sure you look out for this. If you need to flag it, hey, contains emoji as one of your fields, and then have somebody else review it that's more educated in that space or has time to look into what the emoji may mean, then great. But just have it on your radar. And now that we have collaboration applications that exploded during the pandemic, well, now there's even more opportunities to use emojis. So they're even more prolific in the workspace than they were before. Yeah. So it's only exploded the last 2 years, even more and more. And it's also a fun topic. People like it. It teaches them something new and keeps me on my toes as well. And my 14-year-old can help keep me educated on some of the evolving meanings.
There you go. Way to get the family involved.
Yep.
You're allowed to plead the fifth. That is your constitutional right. But do you have a favorite war story about emojis? Like something funny or something surprising? Like I said, you can decline. I'm putting you on the spot here, but I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I mean, I heard of one. I've seen a couple actually, where I saw one parent that was embarrassed. They sent a coach like a heart smiley eye emoji, and then another one was accidentally the kissy emoji, like the wink with the heart coming out. And they meant to just do the wink, and then I guess the coach's wife saw it, and it caused a little bit of drama. But it was just an accident. But this stuff happens with emoji. I mean, that is the one challenge with emoji. With words, you wouldn't type that out, right? Yeah. But an emoji you might, and that's why I think they're important to to govern better in the workplace because people may be a little more liberal with their language using emoji than they might be with actual text.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, this has been awesome, man. It's great to meet you and hear more about you and what you're doing at Trustpoint. So appreciate you coming on. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.